I'm Jeff Hunt. He's Bill Thorpe. It's a snowy Wednesday.
We've got school closures on our YouTube feed. Not like the old days. I had to wait.
Yeah, right.
Wait.
Or even the older days where it was just radio.
Yeah.
And you had to, like,
I was there too.
Tune in and listen and hope and hope and hope and hope and hope.
And we've talked about it the before. The worst thing in the world is where you finally tune in and you find the station that's doing the school closures, whether it be radio or TV, and they just missed your letter.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
they're
like
now
you go to,
into the D's after
you go
the
to Cherry Creek.
School
You go to Cherry
District.
Creek, and you come in and they say Douglas County. You're like, ah! I got to wait for an entire cycle to get back around to the C's. Yeah, this is awful. Yes.
Kids have it so easy
I
these
know.
days. A text message just shows up.
Go to a web page. This is just kids these days. Get off my lawn.
So if you want to see that, go to our YouTube channel or x.com/Jeff Hunt, 710K US. You can see it. Sacred Heart of Jesus School. It has a 10 a.m. start. St. Anne's Episcopal School, delayed 1 hour. So it's just going through, making its way through. Doesn't seem like a lot of cancellations. Douglas County, I don't think, has gone because I would have heard it from our kids. So, we've got a lot to talk about this hour. Donald Trump calling Somalis garbage. He doesn't want them in the country anymore. Is this wise leadership, getting rid of immigrants that are a drain on our system, or are we just reliving the cats, dogs, Haitian things again? He's painting with too broad a brush. We'll get into that this hour. Now it's time, though, for news and comment. Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Hey, good Wednesday morning. 28 and snow in Denver, expecting a high of 34 today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, ground delays at DIA as expected this morning. A winter weather advisory issued for the Denver area until 6 tonight. The National Weather Service expecting between 3 and 6 inches of snow in most areas, with up to 8 inches in the foothills. The Denver Department of Transportation says that road crews were focusing on main roads and known trouble spots overnight. Residential streets will be plowed as needed later in the day. An announcement on new relaxed fuel economy standards is expected today from the DJT administration. Top executives from Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis have been invited to the White House for the event, where a rollback of Biden-era standards will be proposed by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Republican Matt Van Epps has come out on top in the special House election in Tennessee. His victory over America-hating Afton Bain, what a character she is seen as hurting the hopes of a larger blue wave after major Democratic wins in November's elections. General Mike Flynn on X posting this and tagging the president. Mr. President, please ask the CIA director if what Senator Ron Johnson says is true.
I believe the CIA has doctored elections in other countries. That's probably indisputable.
Yes.
Those same types of operations, do those occur here in America? My guess is they do. Do I have hard evidence? No. But again, we just don't investigate it. The people, we're all harmed by it, but for example, the losing candidate, they don't have the funds. We don't have the time yet to certify these elections. So election fraud goes largely uninvestigated. We uncover, again, in your earlier segment, 500 phony registrations. It's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yep, on Benny Johnson.
He did say he has no hard evidence, so he's just farting in the wind. He has nothing. I mean, not even. He doesn't have a suggestion. He doesn't have nothing. I mean, that's the thing, man. He doesn't have anything. No hard evidence. That basically means I'm making this up. He has nothing. That's an issue.
Got to keep searching.
That's an issue. Here's the thing.
Looking.
Here's the thing. 250 audits in 2020. Investigations by the DOJ that was Trump's DOJ headed by Bill Barr. 2 investigations paid for by the Trump campaign. the 2020 election was investigated over and over again, and yet somehow we didn't turn up a CIA.
They found a few things here and there.
Again, they didn't. Hang on a sec. They didn't find large-scale fraud on a level that would be needed in order to fix an election. You can say there were small irregularities in certain places, but Johnson is suggesting the CIA manipulates elections.
True.
That would have been evident. It would have been self-evident in the 2020 investigation. He is farting into the wind. He has nothing, and he admits it up front. I have no hard evidence, but listen to all the BS I'm now going to spew. He has nothing. He has absolutely zbupkis. That's the problem.
I like it. Keep on fighting, keep on searching. I don't trust any of them.
And Don Quixote kept running at those windmills.
And
they weren't dragons.
And one day elections, one holiday, nothing but elections, everyone off work and school, and that's the way we do it. Paper ballots, and
we already have paper ballots, though. We do. Paper ballots, because remember, your mail-in ballot, it's on paper.
Yeah, it's on paper. What am I trying to say? In-person voting.
But wouldn't that be electronic?
Yeah, I guess it would.
But then we don't. And that's the issue with this.
Pencil and paper.
See, the issue is this. That's the circular logic that doesn't work here. Is because in order to do one-day voting and in order to get everybody through that you need to, you have to do it electronically. You want to sit there and wait for someone to fill out a paper ballot by hand in front of you in line, and then make mistakes and have to do things
for everyone.
When we were growing up, Blake, we didn't fill them out by hand. They were still done by machine then. We were smart enough back then to go, we can't move everybody through here and have everything done by hand at that time. So there's a circular argument of we can't trust the paper ballots, but in order to do the in-person voting, you'd have to do it electronically. So you got to figure out what the and so the issue is for all the people that worry about the elections and the security of elections. You need to figure out what your monster is. Is the monster the paper ballots, or is the monster the electronic voting? Can't have both. Can't have both.
No early voting. How about that?
Okay, but what would be the impact? I mean, again, I don't see the fraud inside of that. But if that's what we want, sure. But then again, you'd have to figure out, because if it's a federal holiday, remember, certain people still have to go to work. So what do they do about voting?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
What do you do with police officers? What do you do with people that have to show up and work at a restaurant? What do you do with hospital workers? What do you do with doctors? What do you do with surgeons? What do you do with air traffic controllers?
Take different shifts.
But hang on a second. But if the air traffic,
how did we do it before? How did we do it in the 70s?
How did we do
it in the 50s?
As some people were given days off, and some people didn't vote because they're still at work. Yeah, so it doesn't solve the issue. That's the thing, is we got to think this through and walk through this idea. That's part of the reason that early voting was done, is because it made it easier for more people to vote. And if we don't want more people to vote, then don't.
I think there was a state party convention here in Colorado that they tried to do voting by ballots only. Because we used to vote via little clickers, and you type it in and stuff like that. And they're like, "All right, we're going to do paper ballots only. Expect to be here well past midnight."
Yeah, and if it was paper ballots only, we wouldn't
know.
We wouldn't know the election results.
They hand counted them.
Oh,
they hand counted, and this was only for like maybe 2,000 people.
Oh, if we hand counted a presidential election, you wouldn't know for weeks. You wouldn't have results for weeks and weeks and weeks, because it would take that long to get through them. And the other part that is weird for all the people that get mad about election integrity, hand counting paper ballots is the absolute worst way to do it. It is statistically the one that is most fraught with errors, most often comes up with wrong totals, and most often is filled with mistakes. So if we're really super concerned about election integrity, you wouldn't advocate for the one system that performs worse than all the others. Again, this is more about politics in my mind than it is actual election integrity. It's more about politics. Yeah, has very little to do with actual election integrity, because those systems already work.
Maybe there is no answer. Maybe.
Jesus is the answer. I remind our kids sometimes when they get a little despaired about the state of the world. Yeah. I'm like, well, you're not meant to be here forever. There is heaven. And there's a king. He's got it all in control. He only asks that you make him Lord and Savior. Yep. Then get to join him.
And I'm still waiting for that one time. I still want it at one point or another for the professional athlete that's like, yeah, that was great. You saw I got that interception, and I was streaking for the winning touchdown. It was going to be a pick six, and then Jesus tripped me on the 5-yard line. And then you see me fall there, and I don't know why he tripped me. What's going on here? And so, yeah, I'm just waiting for that. Or I had that ball, and then Jesus made me fumble. It's not my fault. Never hear that. I'm just waiting for that.
The word allowed needs to be in the vocabulary.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah. Every National Guard member deployed in D.C. is now armed. The Pentagon said Tuesday that Guard members will also be conducting joint patrols with the local police. The move comes after one service member was killed, of course, and as we know, and another was injured in a shooting last week near the White House. A Georgia inmate is still on the run after ordering an Uber to evade police while at a hospital following a suicide attempt. Investigators say Timothy Shane stole at least 2 cars and took an Uber after he ran out of an Atlanta hospital in his patient's gown overnight on Monday. Wow. Canucks at the Avs last night.
Now McKinnon trying to move it. Landeskog turns on the near side. McKinnon scores!
Nathan McKinnon. The Avalanche win it 3-1. They are 19-1-6.
The Avs take a 3-1 lead.
And they have won 2 straight. The Nuggets at the Pacers tonight. And the CU Buffs. Tad Boyle's team is on fire right now. They're rolling 8-0. They're at Colorado State in Fort Collins this weekend. 24 in Parker, 26 in Arvada, 28 in Denver. You're waking up with Jeff and Bill. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Donald Trump calling Somalis garbage. He doesn't want them in the country anymore. We'll talk about that, and we'll play some audio from a wild cabinet meeting yesterday. First, let's talk advanced hair restoration. Guys, if you're losing it, desire to have it back, then Advanced Hair Restoration has the easiest guaranteed solution. Their simple one-day treatment offers life-changing results. I've seen it with my own eyes. It's not magic, but close to it. They put hair where you need it the most, and bam, it grows. It's actually science. Advanced Hair has it all. Top-rated Dr. Tanya Paul's modern technology. And best of all, you get your own natural hair that begins regrowing the very next day. Advanced Hair even guarantees it will grow for life. So schedule your free consultation now, 720-459-HAIR. If you qualify, you'll get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. I've had family members, close friends, get their hair done, and it really does change their entire attitude, gives them energy and a youthfulness, comes back to every aspect of their lives, their professional, their personal. Advanced Hair is the winner of Westward's Best of Denver now 2 years in a row and has changed the lives of tens of thousands of people. So don't wait. Check out the before and afters online for yourself, 720-459-HAIR, 720-459-HAIR, advancedhair.com, advancedhair.com. Get that hair done now during the winter months. So when summer comes, kicks back around, you're going to look great. All right, here's Trump during his cabinet meeting yesterday.
But, no, I think that Waltz is a grossly incompetent man. There's something wrong with him, okay? There's something wrong with him. And when you look at what he's done with Somalia, which is barely a country, you know, they have no anything. They just run around killing each other. There's no structure. And when I see somebody like Ilhan Omar, who I don't know at all, but I always watch her for years. I've watched her complain about our Constitution, how she's being treated badly. Our Constitution, the United States of America, is a bad place. Hates everybody, hates Jewish people, hates everybody. And I think she's an incompetent person. She's a real the terrible person. But when I watch what is happening in Minnesota, the land of 1,000 lakes, or however many lakes they have, they got a lot of lakes, but this beautiful place, and I see these people ripping it off, and now I'm understanding, and you're going to look at that's. I hear they ripped off Somalians, ripped off that state for billions of dollars, billions, every year, billions of dollars, and they contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you, okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country's no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I can say that about other countries, too. I can say it about other countries, too. We don't want them to hell. We have to rebuild our country. You know, our country's at a tipping point. We could go bad. We're at a tipping point. I don't know if people mind me saying that, but I'm saying it. We could go one way or the other, and we're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country. Ilhan Omar is garbage. She's garbage. Her friends are garbage. These aren't people that work. These aren't people that say, let's go, come on, let's make this place great. These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. You know, they came from paradise, and they said, this isn't paradise. But when they come from hell, and they complain, and do nothing but bitch, we don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it. Thank you very much, everybody.
That's J.D. Vance tapping on the table in agreement. What do you think of what Donald Trump said? Are the Somalis garbage that need to be removed from this country? They come from a failed state. He's exactly right about that. Somalia is a failed state. No religious freedom, no real free market capitalism, no real government. It's tribal. It's vindictive. They attack each other. So it is a failed state. But if you remember, we debated this in part yesterday, the poem at the base of the Statue of Liberty. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless. Tempest tossed to me, I lift my lamp beside the golden door. So is this a change in America? And how have the Somalis assimilated? Well, Trump, not exactly right on the statistics, according to my analysis, but right on the sentiment. Somalian populations in Minnesota, outside of the St. Paul region in what's called Hennepin County, it's the highest concentration, 80,000 Somalis there. Do have a higher rate of poverty, a higher rate of unemployment, lower median income, lower percentage of people looking to work in the workforce as well. Have they assimilated? Well, not really. In some parts, yes, and assimilation is judged on 4 aspects typically: socio and economic status, geographic distribution, second language attainment, and intermarriage. Socioeconomic status, yes, in part. The second generation of Somalis that came here in the 90s during the Civil War, if you remember Black Hawk Down, that element or that time frame, that's when they were coming. The second generation, yes, working more than the first generation. You are seeing some assimilation there. Geographic distribution, not really. They tend to huddle outside of that Minnesota, St. Paul, Hennepin County area. That's where they live. They're not really distributing out into other parts of America. Second language attainment. Yes, you're seeing some improvement there. And that's to be expected. The second generation knowing English better than the first generation. But intermarriage, no, this is probably one of the weakest parts. They are not intermarrying into America. They're marrying within Somali communities. They're staying and keeping that intermarriage. So you have a community that has a higher rate of unemployment, lower median income, lower percentage of people working, higher poverty rates. They're not intermarrying. They're not distributing geographically. So are they a drain on our system? Then you combine the nearly 80 people that have been arrested on alleged fraud in the hundreds of millions, possibly even $1 billion. Have things changed? When people came to our country in the 30s, the social welfare system wasn't nearly what it is today. So it costs more when you bring immigrants here. You saw that in Denver. We've hung that big banner, Denver Hearts Immigrants. 40,000 came, cost the city $356 million. The city went broke, had to lay off 170 people, didn't fill 600 jobs, cut services to its own people. So is it fair to abide by that old adage at the base of the Statue of Liberty? Give us your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shores. Send those, the homeless, it says. But when that was there, the social safety net and the spending and the taxes necessary to support them didn't exist. So it's more expensive, and it's a direct impact on our own services to this point where people are losing jobs in the city of Denver. Is it fair to welcome the same amount of people? The numbers are bigger. During the Biden administration, you had anywhere from 10 to 20 million illegal immigrants that came. It's much bigger than what was coming through Ellis Island in the 1930s. So can you claim the same? Is it American to welcome the huddled masses yearning to be free? Or has the system changed to the point where the Somalis have become a problem, as Donald Trump said, garbage that needs to be taken from America, put back in Somalia? And are they grateful the same way that they used to be? Is Donald Trump right to claim that they just complain all the time, don't seem to be happy about living in America? Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Bill, what did you think of Donald Trump's comments?
Well, the irony of him talking about the Somalis complaining all the time when the entire screed is him complaining. There's some really, really deep irony there, because that is one long list of complaints and moans and gripes and gritches, and yet he says, and the Somalis complain all the time. What was accurate in any of that statement there? I mean, rip off billions every year? No. We have possibly the fraud rising up to $1 billion, not necessarily on the direct food program, but in other fraud areas. And so if you total all of it together, it may crest to $1 billion, but they're not ripping off billions every year. It's silly. The thing that I'm curious about is, how often has he warned us that if X happens, you're not going to have a country anymore? That's one of his patented go-tos. He's got to make you scared of it. He's got to tell you there's going to be a problem in this country if I don't do something. I'm the only one that can save you. Remember when he was on the rotunda on January 6th, and he was encouraging that very peaceful gathering of people that were supposed to quietly and peacefully and with love in their hearts wander up into the Capitol, but they missed that part of the speech, evidently. He did say, if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. He said this over and over again, that you're not going to have a country anymore if X happens. And I'm the only one that can prevent it. It's a classical authoritarian trope. He needs you to be afraid of something, and then he needs to have to convince you that he's the only one that can prevent it. I have no idea what he's talking about. We're reaching a tipping point at this country. We've seen that since the 1920s. Tipping point. We can go back to ads with migrants are changing what's going on in the country, and blah, blah, blah. And it's always about a tipping point. It's always about these people coming in that aren't assimilating. It's always the same exact moan and complaints. But even the statistics that you showed, Jeff, it seems the Somalis are assimilating, and normal assimilation takes a generation. And so you do not see a lot of large-scale assimilation in the first generation. You see it in the second. That's what we're seeing in the Somalis. This is fairly typical. There are some issues as far as outlying, but again, new migrants, when they get here, do often have economic, language, educational struggles. That is normally typical for the first generation. In fact, many people that come in here as immigrants and don't speak English will say it is the conversations with their children who are speaking English that most often expose them to the language and get them speaking the language most often, not language classes or anything else. That it actually is that second generation of kids who become Americans and they grow up here and they're assimilated here. So that's normally how it is. This seems to me to be the usual track and statistics. But, Donald Trump's never one to ignore an open mic that he can complain at. And again, he was complaining the entire time about people that are complaining.
Text messages hot on this one. When they wrote those words at Ellis Island, they weren't providing welfare to everybody who came in. That's the biggest difference. It is a serious part of the evaluation of the policies that we're providing. I've had family members that are immigrants, and the story is often told down for generations that they came and landed with a nickel in their pocket. And Grandpa took the nickel, bought 2 cigars, handed one to his wife, and said, now everything we build together. They went on to have 14 children, were dairymen in California, built successful dairies out there. So the welfare state didn't exist at the same level. It does now. There's real world economic consequences to providing all of the services that states and cities and counties are providing. We're running out of money. We ran out of money in Denver. We ran out of money in Colorado. In part, not entirely, but in part because of the spending that was made on illegal immigrants. And that doesn't even get into the spending on legal immigrants. So is it the same? Is it the same country to be able to say, give us your tired, your huddled masses, when they cost so much to people that are already in debt in this country? Give us a call. Join the conversation, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Let's go to Gary in Colorado Springs. Good morning, Gary. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning. Hey, Gary, are you there?
Hello.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, we got you,
Can you
man.
hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
All
What's
right,
on your mind?
Good. I just, after listening to that piece with our leader at his table there about the Somalians, I felt he came off his rant as not a stable person. I found that the most incredible few minutes of a rant that had so many inaccuracies, so much emotion about people, generalizing a whole group of people and literally stating that they all should go. I find that as a crazy person. And Jeff, I find you such a sycophant as it relates to everything he says and does, you support and defend. And I'm curious as to, is there anything that he does, not his cabinet, not the people that clap and sit around that table, which is like an SNL skit, is there anything that you don't support him with in it? And I'm speaking specifically of Donald Trump, not the cabinet, not the Republican Party. Donald Trump. Is there anything you can honestly say, boy, I just don't agree with him?
Yeah, I think the spending's too high, Gary. But Gary, I want to keep us focused on the issue. How many Somalians should America import?
You mean specifically Somalians? And
sure.
You know, Jeff, I always
That's what we're talking about.
Press people. I always hear people say on your side of the microphone, just answer the question. You're not answering the question.
Well, no, I did answer your question.
Is there anything you don't support?
Spending. I think there's too much spending.
Meaning Donald Trump spends too much?
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, I think
now, Gary, answer the question
on
this issue. How many Somalians should America import?
I would take Somalians out and talk about in general how many, how many immigrants do we take in? And I don't have an answer for you on that because it's, of course, our immigration, the whole structure is broken. I don't have an answer for you.
What's broken about it?
And specifically talk about Somalians, which is probably a small fraction of the total immigration, and then to suggest that they're all bad people is, I think,
Gary,
ridiculous.
They're 99% Muslim, and the country they come from has zero religious freedom. How many should we import? There's 80,000 of them.
Then they're going, if they're 99% Muslim,
correct,
and they're going from a country that doesn't allow them to be Muslim? Is that what you just?
No, no. It totally. You can be. It's one sect of Islam there, but the country they came from has no religious freedom whatsoever.
Well, then it sounds like folks need to flee and have a reason to leave a country that is so dysfunctional.
But why can't they fix their own country? Why can't they, Gary? Why can't they fix their own country? Where they come from, the values that they bring are not American values, and you saw that in the New York Times. You saw that in the New York Times article, where they said that they come from a culture of corruption that has resulted in some of the biggest fraud that's ever taken place in American history, nearly $1 billion. It's not just me. That's the New York Times going, it is part of a culture of corruption that they brought with them that led to this. And then you combine that with Minnesota wanting to turn a blind eye to this based upon essentially race, DEI.
So it's gone from almost $1 billion to your billion to our leaders' billions. I guess I'm doubting, and I'd like to hear more, quote unquote, facts about this situation before I render an opinion on this.
Okay, well, the New York Times said it was nearly $1 billion, but even if it was a few hundred million, isn't that terrible? Those are taxpayer dollars. That's money that you give to the government, I give to the government, that was fraudulently spent, and we're a country in debt, we're a state in debt, we're a city in debt. Why do we continue to do this? Because there's some poem on the base of the Statue of Liberty that says so?
Well, I think that fraud in government is not caused almost unilaterally by immigrants. I think there's a fair share of white government people and white people in general that are creating the problem just as much as all of these immigrants. And I say white because it just seems like we're always going after others other than white.
Well, I think there's fraud in all cases, but Gary, you just don't have a solution to these problems. So when I ask you how many Somalis we should import, you don't have a number for it. When
does he need a number, though? Does he need a number?
Why not?
Why do we need? Hang on a sec.
But hang on a sec. Somali immigrants.
But hang on a sec. But why is that relevant to the discussion based on a rational number, whether or not it's 2 or 3,000 or 45 million? Because Donald Trump's descriptors are their garbage. So the number total wouldn't matter. And the number total also would be fungible based on total population, based on expansion. The number that we let in Ellis Island based on per capita is going to be different than when we're a nation of 300 million people.
Correct.
So the number is always going to be different. So
no, numbers absolutely matter.
No,
absolutely matter. Because we jump back and forth.
I think it's irrelevant.
You jump back to this kind of 1930s immigration belief, and you point out the poem of the base of the Statue of Liberty, and then we apply that today. We say, well, we're not really living by what it means to be an American. Look at the poem at the base of the Statue of Liberty.
But how does? But hang on a sec.
Changed.
But hang on a sec.
Have changed.
Hang on a sec. How does it change? Hang on a sec.
All of this has changed.
If Gary gives us a number, just for argument's sake in the discussion, Gary gives us a number of 100,000. That changes the discussion. How? So if Gary picked a number, whatever that number is,
Yeah, right.
it changes the discussion. How? It doesn't change your point. It doesn't
It
change
does.
it. No, it doesn't.
Sure
It doesn't
it
change
does.
any of your arguments. It doesn't change any of the issues, and nor does it change any of Gary's issues. That's it. The number is way too arbitrary in this type of discussion. It doesn't really mean anything because the core problems are not at the bottom are not about numbers.
I fundamentally disagree because what you're dealing with are budget issues here. Okay,
That's not what Trump said.
The city of Denver spent $356 million on 40,000 illegal immigrants that came through the city. Okay, those are impacted by numbers.
Donald Trump said Somalis are garbage and they shouldn't be here. He doesn't want any of them. So the number, that's why I'm saying the number is irrelevant. The number is irrelevant to him. He's saying he doesn't want a single one. He's actually intimating that he wants to move all of the ones that are here now out. So the numbers is
Do you
in this
think
argument, the
had
numbers
the
are irrelevant.
same level of fraud? Do you think this would have been the same headlines out of the New York Times if there were 8,000 Somalis in Minnesota as opposed to 80,000?
Yeah, possibly.
No, come on, guys.
What do you mean, no?
That's not at
Wait,
all.
hang on a
It
sec.
wouldn't have gotten there. You wouldn't
Hang on
have
a
had
sec.
the fraud numbers.
Hold on.
You wouldn't- come on.
Donald Trump this week pardoned a dude that ran a $1 billion Ponzi scheme. He had served 12 days in jail, and it was his Department of Justice that got him convicted just last year. Dude reported and was in for 12 days and then received a presidential pardon. Hang on a sec. You're looking at numbers. Would they have been able to pull off the fraud? One dude ran a Ponzi scheme that was able to get billions. Numbers are irrelevant at that point. If one guy can manage a $1 billion Ponzi scheme, I submit that 8,000 Somalis could run a fraud scheme in Minnesota.
Guess what? Even if it was one guy, Donald Trump would want him out.
But it disproves your narrative about the 8,000.
No,
That's
it
my point.
doesn't.
Yes, it
Oh,
does.
my goodness.
One
All right,
dude
Gary,
was able
we
to get
appreciate
billion.
it.
Thanks, Gary.
You guys dancing around the fact that you have no answers for this. You jump
The
back.
answer's irrelevant.
You jump back to the
Your number's
Statue of Liberty
irrelevant.
and you go, give us our trash. Give us our trash. And what we're pointing out is that these people that are coming in are costing taxpayers a ton of money, not just in the fraud, but in all the services that are being provided. This isn't 1930s Ellis Island anymore.
Yeah, so
All
it's
right.
good that poem should be viewed through a lens of the dollar. Yes, good to know. It's not an ideal, not an aspiration.
Bill, how much money do you give
it's
to
a
illegal
dollar.
immigrants?
I don't know.
None. You give
What do you mean?
none.
Hang
How
on a
much
sec.
money do you give
Wait,
to illegal immigrants?
Hold on a sec.
But you said everything needs to look through the dollar.
No, hang on a sec here. Weren't you the one just a couple minutes ago moaning and complaining about tax dollars going to illegal immigrants here in Colorado and Denver?
Yes.
That would be my money. That would be my money.
Good use of your money?
That would be my money.
Do you like paying more taxes for illegal immigrants to have services?
I think that's a false choice. I think that Mayor Mike Johnston spent the money poorly and took money and created programs that were illogical and boneheaded and rather dumb. And so the idea is I disagree with the premise that I have to raise my taxes in order to pay for the illegal immigrants. Because I would submit, hang on, Jeff, I would submit that you probably could find places in the Colorado budget where you could find savings and you could cut things. And that could open up money that might be spent on illegal immigrants. So the idea that it's a bottom line with zero-sum game with the Colorado budget, I can find stuff that I would cut.
Here's where we're in. We're in la-la land where numbers don't really matter. It doesn't really matter how many thousands. We're just being a welcoming, loving society. How many tax dollars? It doesn't matter if it's put our state, our city, our country into debt. We all just feel better about ourselves. It's constant virtue signaling from the left on this stuff when there are real world consequences. All right, we'll get to the phone lines. Let's talk Mountain High Appliances. Come check out their Black Friday sale. Still happening, but it's going to wrap up this weekend. It's at all of their showrooms. Experience incredible savings on today's top brands. Save up to $4,400 on select KitchenAid appliance packages. And don't forget their price match guarantee. It ensures you are getting the best deal. When you think appliances, think locally owned Mountain High Appliance, open 7 days a week. The feisty debates will continue. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Donald Trump saying that Ilhan Omar, the Somalis in Minnesota, garbage. They need to go. He doesn't want them in the country anymore. Are they assimilating? Is this a violation of the tenets of being an American, that we bring in the huddled masses yearning to be free? Or are they just costing too much? When that poem was put at the base of the Statue of Liberty, we weren't bringing in millions, tens of millions. We didn't have the social services program that's currently built, and we didn't have all the debt problems that cities, counties, states, and even this nation are facing as a result of all the services provided to immigrants. So, is it time for them to go? Let's go to the phone lines. Ron Greeley. Good morning, Ron. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Morning, guys. How's it going? That last caller that you had when he was over there complaining about Trump, and all he does is rant, and I mean, he went on and on, but he gave 0 points. All he did was generalize, and that seems to be the norm whenever anybody complains about Trump. Now, you get your exceptions. Most time, all they do is say he does this, he does that. But it's general. They never give specifics. And it's amazing because what he's saying about Somalia is true. He's not making anything up. What he said is true. As far as assimilation here in the United States, and when Billy was talking about, it takes a generation. Well, the generations that are coming here are young. How long of a generation are we going to allow this to go on?
Well, Ron, according to the statistics that Jeff brought up, it's the second generation of Somalis that are assimilating. Exactly what we'd expect.
But how are they assimilating?
They're doing the things.
All these examples of them not doing anything.
No, he didn't. And Trump didn't at all. He just said they were worthless and they don't contribute anything.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I know, but that's opposite of it. That Jeff showed the second generation is assimilating. They're learning the language, yes, in part, more than the first generation, which is exactly what you would expect. That's exactly what has happened over the course of history.
But they're not moving out of these neighborhoods. They're staying confined just outside of Minneapolis, or of St. Paul, Minneapolis, and they're not intermarrying. They're not marrying with other races. They're primarily marrying within the community itself. So, yeah, in part they're assimilating, but in other parts they're not.
Okay, now with that said, and that is likely true, when Billy was saying, well, it's a small percentage, and it's really not going to make a big impact as of right now. When you have, it was Dalai Lama that made that point. I mean, and it's basically a rude statement as far as, if you think you're too small, to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito. And I think what's going to happen is you're saying that the Somalis are all Muslim. We have the problem with Muslims in Michigan. We have a big problem with Muslims now trying to invoke Sharia law because they are at a number that they feel comfortable in doing so. Brigitte Gabriel, she says, here's the playbook. You can read it. They are not afraid of it, and they're doing it, and we're allowing it to happen. When Jeff said, at what point do we stop with the phrase of the Statue of Liberty, we should have stopped a long time ago. That was to help bring the country up and build it. Once you reach that, you can't continue to allow immigrants that are not vetted, that's the key word, into our country, because you do end up with trouble. Now, let me ask this question.
Hang on, Ron, I got a question then. So if we vet the Somalis, you're okay with them?
Yeah, but that's kind of like a loaded question. Yeah, if they all pass and they're willing to assimilate to the United States
all right,
ways.
Ron, hang on a sec. Ron, do you have any information showing the Somalis were not vetted before they came here?
Just going off of what is said, through the news, as far as millions coming in that have not been vetted. So I would assume.
But did they say millions of Somalis, or was that just immigrants, or were those Somalis? Now remember, the Somalis are refugees, so they would have to apply. And most of those that are in Minnesota are from a refugee program. They didn't sneak across the border. They didn't come in trucks in the middle of midnight. They were brought here as refugees. We were involved. We were involved in their Ron. We were involved in their relocation. We didn't just show up in Somalia with a plane and go, "Come on, everybody, get on." That's not what we did.
When you say we, do you have a mouse in your pocket? Because I'm curious as to who you're saying we.
I'm using we we as the royal term and the royal use as far as America. We as America didn't just show up in Somalia with a plane saying, "Hey, everybody, get on."
No, it was not we as America. It was a select few that said, "Come on in." It was a select few. It definitely was not we America.
It was It was an American refugee resettlement program. You can be mad at it all you want, but this is a silly point.
Look at who it produces. Ilhan Omar is their representative. And to Trump's point, she hates America. She constantly complains about it. And she's one of those weird Islamists plus progressives that's willing to abide by the teachings of Islam, but then also go to pride parades. Like, it doesn't make any sense logically, because if you're an Islamist, you throw gay people off a top of a building. So that's the type of person that they're electing.
Hang on a sec, though.
These are not good leaders.
But hang on a sec, though.
Hold on,
Ron. Hang on a sec. If the person that individuals elect is then a reflection on the community, we've been bashing Michael Bennett and John Hickenlooper. So Colorado evidently just sucks, because those are the people that rose up here.
I've been saying that for a while.
All of Colorado sucks. That's the issue. Okay.
Let me ask you, Bill.
Yeah.
Real quick. Is it true? Is it not true? There's rumors. Did or did not this Ilhan Omar, did she marry her brother?
No.
She's been married a lot, though.
Yeah.
I think she's been married 3 or 4 times, and sometimes to the same people over again.
So she married her brother to come to the United States. So whoever's saying that is flat out lying.
I have not seen that be proven. I've seen the rumors, but I haven't seen anything that would prove it. And that's the issue with me, is you got to prove it. I'm not going to see something about someone online that I dislike and go, obviously it's true. That's confirmation bias.
I agree.
It's confirmation bias. So that's the issue, is I want to see it prove. I haven't seen anybody prove that she did that. Yeah.
Okay. So that aside then, when you have somebody such as her who comes from the country that she does, who doesn't have any good instilled in her, because that is proven of how she acts towards America, as to what did we do so wrong.
She definitely does not like this country. She complains about it all the time. Ron, I appreciate the call. We got to get to a break. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is KNUS.